website is socializeace.com.
Right.
And I ran into Dr. Zack Bush, who you all know and love, and we were talking about this, and I said, well, let's just talk about it. So what were you saying about this neurofeedback versus what you've experienced over the last decade, probably?
Well, we should probably let Dr. Cowan chat on that a little bit more than myself, but the simple version that I would take away from the experience of working with these guys today is that my clinic's been looking deep into QEEG, which is a powerful way to get 19 leads from the brain to give a sense of what are the general activities around the brain at any given moment. And we can find slow points and we find hot spots within the brain of activity, and then we can hook that up to software programs that allow the individual to do neurofeedback to subconsciously modulate the activity of the brain in different areas. The brilliance that Dr. Cowan and his team have come up with is, instead of trying to dissect all of the complexity of 19 spaces, is to focus in on the master frequency, which is coming from the center of the brain space and then scanning back and forth through the brain at 40 hertz.
So
give us more information
Yeah, so
on that.
show us this.
Okay.
You could use him as a guinea pig, probably.
It's more like the combination of this and the software over here that essentially does the work for us. And in order to really show it to you, we need to put it on and then put it to my ear. And basically what's happening is it's going to read some brain waves as soon as we started going. What's happening here is we have two different measures, one of which Dr. Bush was talking about. You see that blue one, and that blue one has to do with the integration of experience, but it also turns out it makes you feel good, which is kind of the key to it. If you're having positive feelings, that goes up. And the yellow one is single-pointed focus of attention. That's like that zoom camera when you're looking in on something and you focus in on the tip of somebody's nose, and then you can broaden out and look at the whole room. You have that on your phone as well. Okay. So what we're doing, and we're getting a lot of noise because I'm talking at the same time, which is a no-no.
What's the green and red one?
The green and red one has to do with blink, and it's basically an artifact that gets in the way, and so it tells you not to pay very much attention to that blink.
Okay, what is that just popped?
Okay, I just turned on a DVD. It happens to be one of my favorite ones, and now I'm controlling the size of the DVD with my good feelings. See, when I've listened to it, it gets bigger. And then,
so as you focus, the software simply takes the brightness of the screen with the image. So it gives you that passive neurofeedback capacity, and so a child with autism can simply watch the screen and will subconsciously tune into this 40 hertz frequency.
So not only is it training the brain, you can also get feedback about what's happening to your child's brain for the nonverbal kids.
Correct.
Right.
So you can base your treatment on what their neurofeedback session looks like. Okay, how much is this machine? Let's just...
Okay, well, it's right now...
Before parents get too excited.
Okay. If you get excited right now, it's $1,500.
Okay.
If you get excited after November 15th, it's $2,000.
Oh, wow. Okay, and if they see this video between November 15th, okay.
And they can contact us through the website at socializeace.com.
Okay.
Or actually just contact me, John at peakachievement.com.
I'm sorry, what is that again?
John, Jon, at peakachievement.com.
Okay, perfect. And then what's the computer requirements?
The requirements are Windows 7 through 10.
So Windows, no Mac.
No Mac that we know of, except there used to be some Macs that had Windows partitions.
Oh, right. That mess up your Mac.
Those would probably work with this.
So I'm thinking, because we did neurofeedback probably 15 years ago, and it seemed cool, but we didn't see that much. What would a parent expect to see, except for on the screen? Would it modulate behavior? What could they expect?
They have a nice study that was just came out, and they haven't published it yet, but it was showing improved social behavioral interaction, and so it's a very complex structural thing to integrate in the brain, and yet with this one integrative wave, the 40 hertz wave that John's so good at teaching on, we see that if we're seeing social behavioral change over the course of just a few months. It was 16 treatments that was done in that one, I think. 18 treatments, and so you could do these. What's your current frequency that you like seeing? Is that 3 times a week, 5 times a week?
3 times a week. But there are published studies that we did with the same technology where we did it 1 time a week, and we got very nice, significant results. But I think the new ones that we have that are better, it so happened that these were summer studies, and so they did it 2 or 3 times a week. And I think that 3 times a week would be ideal. You can do more.
Is there downside to doing more? I mean, is there too much?
There's no downside unless your kid becomes really addicted to the bliss that comes out of it.
That's actually something unique to this one as well. The 40 hertz cycle seems to be different than the QEEGs that are doing 19 spots around the brain, and that you get this bliss state. And they're calling it Eureka, which I think is clever.
Yeah.
But the Eureka moment is coming when this 40 hertz wave is tuning in and likely causing a huge dopamine surge in the brain.
Right.
As an endocrinologist, I have a theory that it's probably causing an oxytocin release as well, but dopamine almost undoubtedly, because they're seeing a happiness coefficient. Whereas, and I think that's actually in your branding, right? One of the programs is called ACE Happiness.
For practitioners who are interested in a broader approach, we have something called the Peak Brain Happiness Trainer.
The happiness
It
trainer,
also has alertness, and then we can add on a mood elevator for depression.
Yeah.
But our kids are struggling. So what's the downside? They're going to either be watching TV or Barney's Great Adventure, or is this a good substitute?
It's going to be if the kid can't handle the stimulus, and so there's going to be some autistic kids that are not going to want to wear the head device.
Sure, absolutely.
That are not going to be able to, handle all the blinking stuff on the screen and all that. So there's definitely going to be levels or instances where this could be a real challenge.
Sure.
But I think, and the age of the child, obviously, you need a child who's going to be able to participate in sitting still for a few minutes. But we talked about that earlier. As little as 5 minutes is enough to start to make a change. 10 minutes is a good target for a kid who's in that 3 to 5 range. Older kids, up into the teens, you might be doing 30 to 60 minute sessions a few times a week. I think your son, who had autism, does an hour frequently.
He does an hour 3 times a week, and he just sneaks up and does it without asking me or anything.
He knows what he needs.
He knows what he needs to do. Actually, we've been doing something a little bit new and different with him that seems to be helping. Instead of just focusing on getting that Eureka up, we're working on the idea of getting it up for 10 seconds and down for 10 seconds. So we're working on control, which, if you think about the basic idea of biofeedback, it's really self-control.
Yes.
And so that's what came out of our discussion.
Can I ask you, is your son verbal?
Very.
Okay, so what about, for my son, we don't know if he understands verbal commands. So could he benefit even if he doesn't understand the command to control it?
Yeah, you could. I think it would be a little bit more trial and error.
We work with the QEEG things. We've seen a lot of people who have such severe traumatic brain injury, for example, that they just can't even remember what they're doing from one instance to the other. The power of neurofeedback is it's not in the conscious cortex that all this activity is arranging itself. It's in the subconscious cortex. And so I've looked at a number of these other software platforms where you see the brightness of the screen change based on the activity at different parts of the brain. The brain is so smart that even when you're doing 19 leads at once and you pick the one quiet point, the brain will go look for that point and turn back on the screen because it wants the image to come back on. And you don't have a clue which of the 19 places are in your conscious space which is down. So these new neurofeedback devices are getting so clever in that they're no longer the old version, which was play a video game that stimulates things and everything else. Instead, it's a totally passive process where the subconscious is coming present. And this is what we've done in meditation for thousands of years, which is if you can quiet the mind, come into focus, then the 40 hertz cycle is cleaning up the system all the way. The 40 hertz cycle, you say so well, is the integration wave, and I love that description. Right. This is how you integrate knowledge or experience.
By the way, it's also compassion.
Compassion, right? That makes sense, and empathy would be in there probably.
Right.
So it sounds to me like what you're saying is you could have a parent with dementia or a nonverbal, not sure if he can communicate, not sure if he can understand, child on the spectrum, and put Barney's Great Adventure, their favorite video, and probably see a positive response.
They'll want to continue to watch the video, and if they don't do what they're supposed to do, the video's going to shut down, or it's going to be so small they can't see it.
Now, does this software platform let you pick a different video, or does you play the ones that you have?
You just put exactly what you want in your DVD player.
And it'll play it.
We prefer PCs, the old kind with DVD
Yeah.
players.
Are they available?
To find those.
Yes.
Yeah.
And but it also will play downloadable files.
So like a $350 desktop computer might be the best way to go in some ways. So you got your drive, you got your screen, you got everything integrated there.
So the Brain Treatment Center that's here in Orange County, have you heard of that? They do the RTMS. We did a high-level EEG with my son there, where they said that his frontal lobe is basically asleep, and his rear lobe is really good. Mm-hmm. Would this be something that would start to integrate and stabilize?
Well, firstly, we turn on the frontal lobe because our one electrode is right over the frontal lobe. I'm looking at it. Actually, we're looking at the potential difference between the electrode and a more neutral spot on the ear. So the idea is that we are really turning on that area, and we understand that area is the most important one because in some sense it runs the rest of the show. But the other thing that runs the rest of the show is that center of the thalamus, which integrates the experience and figures out what you need to do right now. By the way, in terms of RTMS, it's very interesting because
that was Bradstreet.
Our researcher, Dr. Tato Sakadze, who is at the University of South Carolina now, he and I have been collaborating, and the initial collaborations were on, there was a grant that had to do with RTMS. Dr. Casanova had this 5-year grant for looking at RTMS, and then they added neurofeedback to it, and they got really good results at one time a week with that combination, and that's published. And then for some reason in South Carolina you can't do RTMS very well. It seems like they have some roadblocks, so they ended up doing just the neurofeedback, and the side benefit of it is that they've discovered that the neurofeedback is almost as powerful if you do it 3 times a week.
Wow.
You know, and so that's why we think that a home trainer is very important.
Okay.
You know, we would like people to come to see Dr. Bush 3 times a week, but I don't think they would.
He doesn't have time.
And actually, I mean, this is huge for us because of the scalability. And so we've been looking at these QEEGs that are 30 grand. Our patients can't afford that, so they're going to have to come into the clinic, or we lease it for a month, but then one patient ties up that machine for a month.
Right.
Whereas here at $1,400, $1,500 buy-in, $2,000 even, that's an achievable goal for a family to chip some money away, get this thing into the home, give the kid free access to it. I think is very important too, because the kid's going to find different times of day where they may not have the emotional tolerance to go to the clinic at that moment and pull this thing off. Where
you made the parent.
And you would use it and you would use it on all your kids and your mom with dementia, and it would be working all the time. A couple more quick questions. So that it's $1,500 through November 15th.
Yeah.
Is it a licensing thing that as you update the software, they get new software?
They will get new software. There will be a second version of the software, and we haven't really decided, but more than likely the people who buy the first version will get the second version.
And then the headset, if you change that, you just buy a new one?
You buy a new one. The headset is relatively inexpensive.
Okay. And then what's the guarantee as far as it working once you get it? 90 days, a year?
It's a year.
Okay, and then is there a money back guarantee if they get it and they see nothing and they're just like...
Well, basically...
Sorry to be technical, but this is what the moms would ask.
Yeah. I think Yes, if they play fair. In other
Okay.
words, when my version of playing fair is they've got to call me twice and try to work out what the issue is.
Okay.
And if they still
Fair
can't
enough.
get the kid to do it, and then we're game for a refund.
Perfect. And again, Zack Bush and is your Dr. Cowan, and your website one more time is
Socializeace.com.
socializeace.com. Thank you.